Okay, just imagine this for a second. You're one of the most important people in history, but you're chained up in a cold Roman prison. You just know your execution is only days away. You get one last chance to write to your closest friend, the person you've mentored for years. What on earth would you say? Well, that's the exact spot the Apostle Paul is in. So let's dive into his final, incredibly powerful letter, the fourth chapter of Second Timothy. Right out of the gate, Paul doesn't waste a single word. He starts with a command that is so serious, he calls on the highest authority in the entire universe. This isn't just some friendly advice he's dishing out. This is a sacred duty he's passing on to Timothy. So we start with verse 1. Paul is basically saying, Timothy, I'm putting this on you, and our witnesses are God the Father and Jesus Christ himself. Now, the really powerful part here is the image of Christ as the final judge. I want you to picture Paul in his dark, damp cell looking Timothy right in the eye. But behind them, you can almost see this brilliant, powerful figure of a king on a throne. That's Christ, the one who will judge everyone. That's the incredible weight behind the command that's about to come. And here it is, verse 2, the core command. Preach the word. It's not a suggestion, it's an urgent shout. He says be ready in season and out of season. You know what that means? It means when it's popular and when it's not. When you feel like it and when you absolutely don't. Think of a speaker on a busy street corner. In one shot, the sun is shining and a curious crowd is listening in. Then, boom, the scene changes to pouring rain. The crowd is gone, but that speaker is still there, sharing the message with the exact same passion. That's the kind of commitment Paul is talking about. So, why all the urgency? Paul explains in verse 3. He says a time is coming when people just won't want the truth. They'll have itching ears, meaning they only want to hear things that scratch their personal itch, things that make them feel good. The image that just nails this is a huge crowd where, instead of listening to one central truth, every single person is eagerly putting on their own pair of headphones, tuning into a personal teacher who tells them exactly what they want to hear. They're literally creating their own reality. Verse 4 shows us what happens next. They will literally turn their backs on what's real and wander off into fantasy. Just picture a well-lit, straight paved road, and it's labeled truth. And you see a group of people deliberately turning away from it. Instead, they choose to walk into this misty, enchanted forest filled with glowing, fantastical creatures. Yeah, it looks cool, but it's not real. It's a powerful warning about how easy it is to deceive ourselves. And that brings us to the key point for Timothy in verse 5. In total contrast to everyone else, Paul says, you have to be different, be watchful, endure hardship, and just do the work you are called to do. This brings up such a strong image, a lone watchman standing on a high stone tower. His eyes are constantly scanning the horizon, he's alert to any danger, and he stands firm even as the wind and storms are just raging around him. That's Timothy's job. The bottom line of this first command is crystal clear. In a world that's drifting toward make-believe, Timothy has to be a guardian of the truth. Okay, so after giving Timothy that incredibly important command, Paul's tone just completely shifts. He's passed the torch, and now he turns inward. He starts reflecting on his own life with this breathtaking sense of finality and triumph. He's about to show Timothy what it looks like to truly finish well. Verse 6 is so deep. I am already being poured out as a drink offering. See, in ancient worship, a wine offering was poured out completely at the altar. It was the final act, the last thing you did. So picture this, a beautiful silver cup full of rich red wine being slowly and deliberately tipped over an altar until every single last drop is gone. That's how Paul sees his life, given completely with nothing held back. Verse 7, this is one of the most famous things he ever wrote. It's a 3-part declaration of a life well lived. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. You can just see a marathon runner, right? His uniform is torn, his body is bruised and totally exhausted, and he's stumbling across that finish line. He collapses, but as he looks up, his face isn't filled with pain. It's filled with this deep, profound satisfaction. He did it. He actually finished. And this is the reward in verse 8. It's not just about finishing, it's about the prize. Imagine a huge, grand hall. On a velvet pedestal, under a single spotlight, there sits a radiant crown woven from pure light, the crown of righteousness. But here's the amazing part. As the camera pulls back, you see that the hall is filled with countless other pedestals, each one holding a crown, just waiting for all the others who, like Paul, finished their race. What Paul's showing us is the incredible peace that comes from a life poured out completely, a race run to the very end for a prize that is absolutely guaranteed. After those triumphant verses where Paul is celebrating his victory, his tone shifts again, and this time it becomes deeply personal, raw, really human. I mean, yes, he's a legend, but he's also an old man in a cold cell, and he's lonely. This whole next section is a list of names, friends who stayed and friends who left. It's a reminder of the real human cost of his journey. Verse 9 is just a simple, urgent plea to his dearest friend. Timothy, hurry up. I need you here. You can just feel the longing in those words. The image is a close-up shot of just a hand, reaching out from the deep shadows of a prison cell window, just desperately hoping for another hand to hold. Verse 10 gives us the painful reason why he's so lonely. Demas left him because he was seduced by the comforts of the world. Others, like Crescens and Titus, they left to do ministry work. So picture Paul just standing still as three figures walk away from him in different directions. But one of them, Demas, he isn't just walking away, he's being pulled, drawn toward the bright, flashy, distracting lights of a distant city. It's a heartbreaking picture of the temptations that can pull us off course. In verse 11, we get a little glimmer of comfort and hope. Only Luke is with me. Then, a request. Bring Mark. Now, this is the same Mark that Paul had a huge fight with years ago, but now, at the end of his life, there's reconciliation. So let's picture the loyal doctor, Luke, taking care of Paul in the dim cell, but Paul is looking past him, toward the door, with this hopeful, expectant look on his face, just waiting for his old friend Mark to show up. Verse 12 is a quick little update. Tychicus, another reliable friend, is on a mission for Paul. You see, even from a prison cell, Paul is still directing the work. It's a testament to his unstoppable commitment. You can just see a determined messenger on a strong horse galloping away from Rome with a scroll from Paul tucked securely in his bag. The work goes on, even as Paul's own life is ending. Verse 13 is just so human. It's touching. Paul is cold and he wants his coat, but even more than that, he wants his books and his precious parchments. Here he is, facing death, and he still wants to read and study. The scene is a dusty room in a town far away. On a wooden chest sits a heavy, worn traveler's cloak, a small stack of books, and a treasured collection of handwritten scrolls, all just waiting for Timothy to come and pick them up. Now we get to verses 14 and 15, and it's a stark warning. Alexander the coppersmith did me much harm. Paul is straight up naming an enemy who caused him real pain. And then he warns Timothy, you need to watch out for him too. To really get this, visualize a coppersmith, Alexander, loudly hammering a sheet of metal. He's creating this deafening, rhythmic clang that is intentionally trying to drown out the sound of Paul preaching nearby. It's such a vivid picture of the kind of opposition they faced. Verse 16 reveals this moment of profound abandonment. At my first defense, no one stood with me. Can you even imagine that? You're facing a Roman court, and all of your friends are gone. The visual is just brutal. Paul is standing alone in the defendant's box in this huge empty courtroom. The seats where his supporters should be are all empty. And yet, listen to his grace. May it not be charged against them. Unbelievable. But here's the thing. He wasn't truly alone. Verse 17 is the triumphant comeback. But the Lord stood with me. When everyone else ran away, God remained. So in that same empty courtroom scene, as Paul stands alone, imagine a powerful, unseen hand resting on his shoulder. Strength just flows into him, and as he speaks, his voice booms with this supernatural power, echoing so that people far beyond the courtroom can hear, and in the background, the shadow of a roaring lion just fades away into nothing. Verse 18 is his final declaration of faith. He knows that even if Rome kills him, God will deliver him into his eternal kingdom. His ultimate victory is secure. Picture the iron bars of Paul's prison cell beginning to glow, and then they just dissolve into particles of brilliant light, revealing a shining pathway that leads up towards a celestial city in the clouds. In these vulnerable moments, we see this incredible contrast between human failure and God's faithfulness. It's a powerful lesson in loyalty, betrayal, and where our ultimate trust should be. After that powerful declaration of faith, we get to the final goodbyes. The big theological points are done. All that's left are some personal greetings and one last, really moving request that just shows how urgent his situation really is. It brings us right back to the very human reality of Paul's final days. Verses 19 and 20 are a flurry of names, and it's a reminder of the community Paul built, the people who were truly his family. He greets Prisca and Aquila, a husband and wife who were his close partners. He greets the family of Onesiphorus, a man who had often encouraged him. Then some quick updates. Erastus is in Corinth, and poor Trophimus had to be left behind because he was sick. This isn't just a list, it's a whole web of relationships. You can see it as a quick montage: a husband and wife working together, a loving family gathered in a home, a man waving from a ship, and a sick friend being cared for. All the joys and sorrows of a life shared together. Verse 21 has that last urgent plea: do your utmost to come before winter. Why? Because the shipping lanes would close in winter. If Timothy didn't make it in time, Paul would likely die alone. It's a heartbreaking thought that adds so much urgency to his words. Then, more greetings from believers in Rome: Eubulus, Pudens, Linus, Claudia. He's alone, but he's not forgotten. Picture the first delicate snowflake of winter, drifting down past Paul's prison window, and then we cut to the warm, smiling faces of these men and women, waving a heartfelt greeting to Timothy. And finally, verse 22, the last words Paul ever wrote: a simple, beautiful blessing for his beloved friend. The Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Grace be with you. Amen. It ends not with a bang, but with a quiet prayer of peace. The final image: a single candle flame burning steadily and warmly in the middle of the darkness. And just like that, the letter ends. Paul fought the good fight, he finished the race. And that leaves us with the ultimate question: how are we going to run ours?